Welcome back, you guys. I hope you had a good May long weekend and got lots of stuff done, maybe around the house, outside, that kind of thing. Um, Now we're going to jump right back into kind of along the same theme of biodiversity that Mr. Hubert was talking about. It's important when you have a biodiverse ecosystem to have these certain elements called producers, consumers, and decomposers. So we're going to talk about what those definitions are and how they kind of work within an ecosystem. Okay, so producers. Producers include plants, microbes, and trees. Now, in order to be a producer, they must go through a process called photosynthesis. Now, photosynthesis is when a plant, tree, or microbe takes sunlight, carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, water and nutrients from the soil. And what they do is they process all of that and make energy and food that they can eat. So basically, what a producer is it produces its own food. Other living organisms can't do that. Only producers can do that. And the good thing about producers is when they take the light, carbon dioxide, and water and nutrients from the soil, some of the stuff that they produce is sugar for themselves so that they can make food or energy for themselves to grow big and strong. And then they release oxygen out into the air, like the trees and stuff like that. That's where we get our oxygen from. And in turn, we breathe in the oxygen and then we breathe out carbon dioxide, which is one of the key elements that they need. Now, they are important, like I said, because animals cannot produce their own food, and many animals eat plants in order to be able to survive. Now, consumers. Consumers are organisms that must eat other organisms in order to survive. Consumers eat in order to ensure that they have enough energy to move, grow, and reproduce. So they cannot go through photosynthesis. They cannot make their own energy. They have to eat other things. So some things like to only eat plants. Some things like to eat plants and meat, and some things only like to eat meat, but they have to do that in order to get energy. Like us, that's why we have breakfast and lunch and supper. The sun doesn't necessarily give us the energy. We wouldn't be able to just survive on sun, whereas producers like trees and plants would be able to do that. When we discuss the food chain later on, we will talk about the different types of consumers that there are. Now, decomposers. These are organisms, often bacteria or fungus, that feed on and break down dead plant or animal matter. So, like after a lion's done eating everything that it can off of a certain animal, all of that stuff that's left over, the bacteria and fungi or fungus grows and breaks it down. It feeds off of it and breaks it down and puts all of the organic nutrients back into the soil. So it gives nutrients back to the soil so that those plants or producers can take those nutrients from the soil so that they can grow, along with using the sun and carbon dioxide. So decomposers waste. Their poop is high in nutrients that the soil needs. Now, sorry about that. Go back down. Okay, bacteria are single-celled organisms that live everywhere on Earth. So right here, we even have some in our stomachs. It's all around us. They're constantly breaking things down. They are very helpful. Fungi, like mushrooms that you see right here, they are organisms that recycle nutrients by decomposing other organisms. So you see these mushrooms or fungi on this tree, what they're doing is they're slowly eating it away and they're slowly breaking it down. So eventually that tree or that dead tree won't be there anymore. It'll just return to the soil. Now, how does how does this relate to biodiversity? Producers, consumers, and decomposers are all important to biodiversity because they are all organisms, an individual animal, plant, or single-celled life form, and they depend on one another. Without enough producers, the consumers wouldn't have anything to eat. So without enough plants, the rabbits wouldn't have enough to eat. And if the rabbits don't have enough to eat, then they're not going to exist. They'll die off. And if the rabbits die off, that means that the lions or whatever happens to eat rabbits wouldn't exist either. Now, without decomposers, the leftover nutrients wouldn't return to the soil to help make energy for the producers. It's a cycle, as you can see in this picture, right? They're constantly feeding off each other. A plant grows from the soil and the nutrients in there. And then what happens is another animal eats the plants, and then another animal eats that animal that ate the plant. And then their nutrients, when they die, they return back to the decomposers to eat, to put those nutrients back in the soil. Here's a little chart to kind of get your mind going about the food chain that we will be eventually talking about. But if you see the decomposers live in the soil, then you have the plants that go through photosynthesis, then you have the herbivores that eat the plants, you have the omnivores that eat plants and animals, and then you have the carnivores that eat only animals. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more in depth later on. Okay, thanks a lot, you guys. Join us for our office hours if you have any questions. I hope you have a good day.